Chapter 1. The Fated Dawn. Beyond Doomsday. What if the end was never really the end? What if the world breaking apart was just the world breathing in before it breathes out again? Let your eyes rest, let your thoughts drift. Tonight, we travel into a myth as old as ice and as fierce as fire. Welcome to the forgotten beginning of Ragnarök. Not the end, not yet, but the quiet trembling, the fated dawn. They say Ragnarök is doom, a word that trembles through time, a prophecy, a curse, a promise. But the Norse knew something we forget. Destruction isn't always final. Destruction is transformation. The ash tree Yggdrasil groans, but it does not fall in silence. It knows that after every winter comes green. After every storm comes sky. The poets of the Eddas didn't warn us to despair. They warned us to see, to feel the rhythm of fire and frost, of chaos and calm, of death and rebirth. Once there was no world, only darkness. Then fire rose from Muspelheim, and ice fell from Niflheim, and where they kissed, the world was born. But already in that first spark, the end slept, like a wolf cub curled beneath the stars. Time passed, gods ruled, men dreamed, and somewhere in the hidden corners of fate, threads began to pull taut. The Norse myths don't begin and end. They turn, like a wheel, like seasons, like breath. Ragnarök isn't the apocalypse, it is the harvest. It is when all debts are paid, when all destinies are met, when the seeds of tomorrow are scattered from the hands of today. We think of war and fire and ruin, but what of the silence before it? What of the signs? Tonight we'll see them. Tonight we'll listen, because the gods already knew, and maybe deep down so do we. Close your eyes and walk with me now, through the snows of time, to a twilight where myths are whispered, to a sky streaked in blood-red auroras, to the first crack in the world's heartbeat. They called it Fimbulwinter. Not one winter, but three. 3 years without summer. 3 years without warmth. Snow upon snow, storm after storm. The sun hides, the crops rot, the wolves grow bold, and even human kindness begins to die. Fathers turn from sons, mothers forget mercy. The world grows cold inside and out. This was not just a weather pattern. This was a spiritual frost, a silence, a forgetting, the first whisper of the end. But long before the snow, the threads had been tightening. Loki, the shapeshifter, the trickster, was bound. Not just with chains, but with consequences. His son, Fenrir, the great wolf, was tricked into chains by the gods. They feared him. Rightly so. His other child, Jormungandr, was thrown into the sea. A serpent so vast, he wrapped the world, tail and mouth, holding it together, waiting, and held her sister. She ruled the underworld, in half light, half dead, half forgotten. The gods thought they had delayed the end. But the more they tried to bind it, the more it grew teeth. And Yggdrasil, the world tree, felt every crack. Its branches shook. Its roots bled. From the eagle in its crown to the serpent at its feet, even the tree knew. Ragnarök was not an if, it was a when. But don't be afraid, because the myths do not ask us to fear the end. They ask us to understand it, to know that what falls can rise again. What burns can bloom again. What ends can begin. Even now, as the skies grow dark in this tale, a new dawn waits on the other side. But first, we walk through the storm. We watch the chains break, the blood spill, the stars fall. We remember the names, the battles, the songs. We see gods not as immortal titans, but as beings of fate, of duty, of sacrifice. So tonight, listen carefully, because every falling snowflake, every crackling fire, every fading heartbeat is part of something bigger. Ragnarök isn't coming. It's always been here. And now we begin. Chapter 2. Whispers from the Eddas, the prophetic signs. The snow has not melted. The sky still sighs, but now we listen. Not to thunder, not to war drums, to whispers. Whispers. From the past, from the runes, from the Eddas' old poems that remember when the gods walked. This chapter is not about action. It is about recognition. The signs were always there. The Norse did not fear the end. They mapped it. And we read. It begins with Fimbulwinter, yes. But more than frost touches the world. A red comet crosses the sky. The sun dims. The moon is stained. People call it omen. The poets call it fate. The ravens of Odin fly in tighter circles. The wolves chase the sun harder now. Their teeth sharper. Their hunger deeper. And then comes the wind. A shriek from hell's domain, as if the dead remember something the living forgot. Let's return to the gods, not as legends, as characters, as family. Odin, the All-Father, wiser than any living thing. He knew. He always knew, but knowledge is not power, not against fate. He carved runes into the roots of the world, hung himself for 9 days, traded his eye for wisdom, and still he could not stop the threads, only read them. He saw Fenrir, the wolf his own hands fed. He saw the jaws that would one day tear him open. So the gods acted. They took Fenrir to an island, tried to bind him. They lied. They tricked. And the wolf grew hatred deeper than his howl. Loki, too, was punished for crimes, for chaos, for blood. Bound to a stone, a serpent above him, venom dripping drop by drop. His wife, Sigyn, caught it in a bowl. But even love can spill, and when it does, Loki writhes. The earth shakes, the first tremors of the last war. And then there's the sea, quiet, dark, holding its breath. Beneath its waves coils Jormungandr, the World Serpent. He grew in exile, fed on salt and silence, until he wrapped the earth, biting his tail, holding balance. But when he stirs, storms come. When he rises, Ragnarök begins. These aren't monsters. They are balance. They are the other side of the gods. Shadow to their light. Truth to their illusion. The signs don't stop. The rooster cooling can be crows. He wakes the gods. Another crows in Helheim, waking the dead. The third, Surtr, cries in Jotunheim, calling giants to war. 3 realms, 3 warnings, 3 cries. No one can say they weren't warned. What do we make of this? That fate whispers before it shouts. That storms don't appear. They gather. That chains don't break. They strain for years. And when they snap, it's not sudden. It is release. And so it begins. The skies open. The seas boil. The dead march. Loki breaks free, his eyes burning like betrayal. Fenrir runs. Each step cracks the ground. Rumelander rises. His breath poisons the sky. The giants rally. Led by the fire-bearer, sword in hand, flames in his veins. He walks from Muspelheim to end worlds. But do not grieve. This is prophecy, not punishment. This is the storm before spring, the fire before flowers. Even the gods knew. Even they made peace with it. Because this was not about good or evil, not right or wrong. It was necessary. It was fated. We now leave the signs behind. The warnings have passed. The pieces are in motion. The whispers are now roars. In the next chapter, we step onto the battlefield, where gods fall, where worlds burn, and where hope, hidden deep beneath ash, still breathes. Chapter 3, the divine battlefield, who fights whom? Now, the whispers are gone. Only echoes of battle remain. You can feel it, can't you? The tension in the air. The roar of distant hoofbeats. The crackle of fire drawing near. This is the battlefield of the gods, where destiny is not avoided, but fulfilled. Tonight, in this quiet moment before dreams take you, let us walk into war as witnesses. It begins at the edge of the sky. Bifrost, the rainbow bridge, shatters under the weight of giants. The shimmering path that once carried gods and heroes now crumbles beneath the chaos. The fire giants of Muspelheim pour into Asgard, led by Surtr, who carries a flaming sword as bright as a star, whose footsteps melt stone, whose eyes see only the end. He does not rage. He does not boast. He simply ends. Odin rides first. Sleipnir gallops beneath him, mate-legged, tireless. The All-Father dons his war helm, spear Gungnir in hand. But even he knows he will not return. He rides toward Fenrir, the great wolf, larger than mountains, eyes full of betrayal, jaws that stretch to the sky. They clash like storms. Odin strikes. Gungnir pierces hide, but Fenrir swallows fate, swallows gods, swallows Odin whole, and the sky mourns. But Odin is not alone. From the ranks of the gods comes Vidar, his silent son. He wears a boot made from all the leather scraps ever discarded. He walks softly, but not today. Today, he leaps. He places that boot upon Fenrir's lower jaw, grabs the upper, and with a primal scream, he tears the beast apart, A son avenges a father, but joy is not victory. Elsewhere, Thor meets his nemesis, YugMythos, the Midgard serpent. Vast, vile, venomous, they have always been destined to end one another. The god of thunder, the serpent of sea, Thor swings Mjolnir again and again. He breaks mountains, he shatters scales, until at last he lands the final blow. YugMythos falls, but so does Thor. The poison has already entered his veins. He takes 9 steps, then collapses, hammer still warm. Tyr, the one-handed god of justice, meets Garmr, the hound of hell. He wrestles him in a fury of fangs and fury. Both die, balance maintained through blood. Freyr, the god of peace and fertility, faces Surtr, but Freyr gave up his sword long ago for love. And now, love costs him everything. Surtr burns him to ash, and then keeps walking. Loki returns to no longer a jester, no longer a friend. He stands against Heimdall, the ever-watchful guardian of the gods. They fight. Blades flash, fates clash, and both fall. The trickster and the sentinel, their lights extinguished in the same breath. It is not just a battle, it is an unraveling. Gods die, giants fall, the 9 realms tremble. Asgard sinks into the sea. Midgard, our world, is drowned. The sky cracks, the stars vanish, and Surtr lifts his blade. A son of fire, a sword of oblivion. He brings it down, and the world ends. Or does it? Because even now, in the smoke, in the silence, a seed waits, a breath lingers, a heartbeat returns. This chapter is not about victory. It is about sacrifice. The Norse gods never promised eternal rule. They promised struggle. They embraced fate. They fought because it was right, even when it was hopeless. And there is something beautiful in that. Something human, even in gods. Close your eyes. Let the flames fade. Let the roars quiet. Because beyond this darkness lies light. In the next chapter, you'll see what rises after the fall. Chapter 4. A new world emerging after the fire and flood. The fire has burned. The sea has swallowed. The gods have fallen. The sky is quiet. Not gone. Changed. This is not silence of death, but of rebirth. This is the moment the world takes its first breath again. Can you hear it? A drip, a breeze, a hush, from ash sprouts, from soot song. The old world has crumbled, but something gentle rises in its place. The light touches the edge of the new earth. Mountains rise again, not in fury, but in peace. Rivers return, shy and silver. Forests stretch slowly, roots dancing in soil not yet named. It is a world not rebuilt, but reborn. The survivors stir, not many, but enough. From the ruins of Midgard to humans awaken. Lifi and Liftrazir, they were hidden during the chaos. Sheltered within Hadmimus Holta wood of memory. There, they waited. They whispered stories. They held each other in darkness. And now they walk, hand in hand. They do not carry weapons. They carry wonder. They are not conquerors. They are seeds. They will repopulate the world, not as warriors, but as gardeners. With every step, they name things anew. With every word, they summon hope. And not all gods are gone. From the mists, return Balder, the bright one, slain long before Ragnarök, but promised to return. Now he does, with his brother Hr, who once killed him. The two walk side by side. No vengeance, no shame, only peace. They come to the field of Eddas where Asgard once stood. There they find remnants, runes, relics, roots, and they begin again. Vidar survives, silent as ever, but strong. And Vali, son of Odin, walks beside him. Together they carry memory, not to mourn, but to rebuild. Thor's sons, Magni and Modi, find Mjolnir among the ruins. The hammer still hums, not with war, but with promise. They lift it, together, and a new kind of thunder rolls through the dawn. Gentler, wiser. This is not paradise. There are no golden halls, but there is golden light. The sun returns reborn from her mother, a daughter with the same flame. She rises not in rage, but in rhythm. To warm, to grow, to guide. Birdsong returns. The eagle at Yggdrasil's crown stretches its wings. The squirrel Ratatoskr begins his climb again, whispering between roots and sky. The world tree stands scarred, but upright. It remembers everything, but it chooses growth. And somewhere, deep in the soil, are the bones of giants, the ashes of gods, the broken chains of chaos. They do not threaten, they nourish. From them, life feeds. From them, stories grow. This is the golden age foretold, not made of gold, but of meaning. An age where conflict has cooled, where old songs become lullabies, where the wheel turns again. Slower this time, softer. Ragnarök was never meant to scare. It was meant to remind that endings hurt, but they heal. That loss burns, but it clears. That life always finds a way to return. Even after the fire, even after the flood. Sleep now. Feel the warmth of that new sun, the peace of that reborn breeze. And as we move to the final chapter, know this: you carry the echoes of gods, the memory of myths, and the spark of something new. Always. Chapter 5. Ragnarok's echoes, timeless battles are over. The gods have rested. The world reborn. But the echoes, they remain. Not loud, not cruel, soft, like breath, like memory, like the creak of old wood beneath your feet on a quiet night. The echoes of Ragnarök are not thunder. They are lessons, whispers that travel through time, not to frighten, but to awaken. We often ask, why would gods allow their end? Why would myths tell stories of defeat? But perhaps the Norse knew something we're only now beginning to understand. That power is not in avoiding endings. It is in embracing them, welcoming them, walking through them, eyes open. Because what breaks teaches. What dies clears space for what is new. What ends gives birth to meaning. Across cultures, we find this truth. In Hinduism, Pralaya, the Great Dissolution. In Mayan myth, cycles of suns and floods. In Buddhism, the wheel of samsara, birth and rebirth. Even in modern life, we feel it. Jobs end. Relationships shift. Old dreams fade. But always, something follows. A chance. A breath. A beginning. The Norse myths, in all their fire and frost, remind us of rhythm, of balance, of the truth that nothing is eternal. And that's not tragedy. That's beauty. Because if nothing lasts forever, then every moment matters. Every word, every kindness, every sunrise, every story you carry, and every dream you dare to begin again. So what are the echoes of Ragnarök? They are the strength to let go, and the courage to begin again. They are the silence after the storm, and the song that rises after. They are the fire that clears, not to destroy, but to make space for green. Tonight, as your eyes close, know that you are part of this myth, this rhythm. You, too, are a world in motion. You, too, carry endings and beginnings. You, too, are the seed that survives, and maybe that's what gods envy most. Not immortality, but the human heart's ability to lose and still choose to love, to break and still choose to build. Let go of today, of the noise, of the fear, and as you sleep, dream of a tree that remembers, a wolf that forgave, a hammer reborn, and a sun new and golden, because you're not just hearing this story, you're living it. This is Ragnarök, not the end, but a turning, a thread pulled through time, now held gently in your hands. And so, our story fades like twilight behind a mountain, not into silence, but into stillness. You've walked through frost and fire, stood beside gods, listened to whispers from runes and roots. You've seen the end of the world, and the beginning beyond it. This was not just a bedtime story. It was a mirror of time, of change, of the human spirit. Maybe tonight you'll dream of thunder, or serpents in the sea, or a quiet place where the world tree grows, carving memory into bark. Maybe you'll dream of a sun not yet born, rising just for you. Maybe, as you drift deeper, you'll realize the Norse never meant Ragnarök as a warning. They meant it as a rhythm, a heartbeat, of falling and rising, of losing and learning, of being broken but never lost. So take this myth with you into tomorrow, into your struggles, into your stories. Let it remind you that when something ends, you are not empty. You are clearing space for something new. This is YugMythos. Thank you for hearing this story about Ragnarök, the prophecies, the patterns, and the quiet hope hidden in endings. We will see you in the next season with new myths, new tales, and new echoes. Until then, sleep well and dream bravely.